anxiety filled 2 to 3 days because people had started getting calls and 2 to 3 days prior to the date which was listed on the website, and everyone else was just wondering, will I get a call? Every time the phone rang, you wish it had a +44 number, someone calling from London. uh, so it's very anxiety filled days, and I remember the moment the result came. It was at night, and so I was just on GMAT club, everyone just talking about, the results are coming in, someone is receiving messages, someone is receiving mails. So I picked up my phone, saw my mail, and the first thing I read was your class. It's not congratulations, nothing. So I'm an economics honors graduate, and I have over 6 years of work experience in investor relations and finance. And primarily, I worked in the power sector in India.
Okay.
So back in 2016, I graduated with a degree in economics from Lady Shri Ram College.
Okay.
And post that, I joined the JSW group. So initially, I was part of their rotation program. So worked in the venture capital sector, then moved to the mergers and acquisitions team in JSW Energy. So after having a very positive experience with them, I decided to stay with JSW Energy, and then was part of credit rating team and their investor relations team for the last close to 4 years.
Okay.
So it was a very exciting, different role, investor relations, and I worked in the Indian energy sector, a sector that I was really, curious to know about. In nutshell, that's a bit about me. And then this year, I applied to LBS and got through. So joining LBS as an MBA candidate this fall.
Awesome. So a little bit more from a layman terms, what exactly is your role, and what do you exactly do at JSW Energy for the M&A team?
Right. So I started off working with their M&A team, worked there for a year. And after that, I moved teams. So I joined their investor relations team. So every listed company in India has an IR team, or investor relations team, that is basically in between the company and the entire investor community.
Okay.
So in simple terms, what I tell people when I talk about investor relations, that I am a storyteller. I talk about my company's story to the entire investor community. So as a mediator between the company and the investor, I reach out to the people in my team, in my company, understand what the company is doing, its strategy, its growth plans, and then communicate it to the investors. And similarly, understand what investor want, are concerned about the company, and bring that feedback back to the management, the top management. So my work is very dynamic. I work with around more than 20 teams in the entire company, and I work very closely with the senior management, the CFO, the CEO. And on the other side, I get to interact with a lot of investors, which are large institutional investors, and the entire analyst community, the sell side analyst community. So it's a very exciting role. You get to learn a lot about what's happening in the sector, what's happening in the company. So it gives you a broader picture of the sector and the company, as well as of what the company is doing internally on its projects. So it's a very exciting role.
Right. So typically when you're looking at a career progression in this kind of a role, organically, how does it grow? Like what would have been your next step organically if you're not looking at doing an MBA?
So typically, investor relations teams are very small in any company. It will be either a 2 or a 3-member team. And therefore, the exposure you get is a lot. In the beginning, in the first few months, you just try to understand the company and the sector it is in. And slowly and steadily, you start getting exposure. So you sit in meetings with large institutional investors. You're basically acting as a proxy for the management, for the CEO and the CFO in many of the meetings.
Right.
Because so slowly and steadily you start reaching a position where the CFO doesn't have to come in and talk to investors at the first level. So you can act as a proxy for the management and talk about the company to investors.
Right.
So you start off being as a junior or an assistant manager, and slowly you become an investor relations officer.
Why did doing an MBA come to your mind? Why did you feel
Yeah,
it was important at this stage in your life?
Yeah. So coming to on that question, so since as I mentioned, I had like 6 years of experience, and I was just thinking about where do I want to take my career next? What is that I want to do next? And after working in corporate finance so far, I wanted to make a pivot to sustainable finance and work within the financial services industry. So an option is yes to laterally move to any financial services industry, but I thought at this stage pivoting an MBA will help me the most. Not just in terms of just making the switch, but also opening up a lot of opportunities throughout my career. So when you're part of an MBA, you actually get into or have a large network of people, and I think that's the best takeaway of an MBA, that you get to meet so many interesting people and create that network for life. So I thought that MBA would help me not just pivot but also become a part of a network that will help me throughout my career. And therefore the thought of MBA came. So initially I was in the early stages of my career. After like 2 to 3 years, I was contemplating whether it's an MBA I should do or whether I should go for a specialized master's in certain area. That's why I never applied for any Indian MBA. And the thought was always there to see, have an experience and then see whether I want to go for a domestic MBA or a global MBA.
Right. Right. So, tell me about your entire journey. So apart from, going through your work schedule, there is also this GMAT that you have to take, right? So, I remember talking to you for the first time, and, you were talking about your GMAT score and why you don't want to take it again and things like that. So tell me a little bit about that journey, and what were your learnings from that journey also, because that's also interesting to know more from your perspective that, again, so many people in this same stage that you were in, last year. So tell me a little bit more about that part.
Right. So as I mentioned, I wasn't quite sure whether it is MBA or any master's I wanted to. So after like having a 3-year work experience, I started to think whether it's GMAT or GRE, which one should I take? Then I finally decided to go ahead with GMAT. So I did take an early attempt at GMAT. I think after 3 or 4 years of work-ex, got a score, but wasn't really sure where I want to apply at the time. Then very close, I think in 2021, I took another GMAT, but I think I took it quite late. So my first learning was, if you're planning for an MBA, take your GMAT as early as possible, because it's just one thing in your entire application. So it's better to take that test and keep that score. And later, if you want to work and improve that score, then also you get a lot of time to do that. In my case, my biggest learning was I should have taken it much earlier. And also taking GMAT along with working full time is very, very difficult. And personally for me, I took my GMAT at a stage where professionally things were very difficult for me. I had enormous workload. As I mentioned, IR is a very small team. So my teammate actually left during the period that I was preparing for GMAT. So I could take lower leaves. I had to, take on more workload. Right. So it was quite challenging for me to take my GMAT, but then I ended up with a score of 680. And that was quite late. It was in November of 2021. So I had already missed the round 1 deadlines of most MBA schools. And anyway, I thought, I had a 680 score, and I spoke to a couple of friends, whether I should retake it again, and then I don't know how much time I will take. Maybe I do another attempt in Jan or February, but maybe and then I'll miss the round 2 deadlines. Or should I work on my application this year? So after a lot of discussions with my close friends who had gone through similar journey, I decided, I should just, use whatever score I have and give it a go this time. Let's see what happens.
Right. So how did you get to know about Crackverbal, and since you worked with us for the admission consulting part, so how did you get to know about us, and what was that process?
Yeah, it was a really nice experience. So a couple of my friends had actually gone through this entire MBA process. So I was asking a lot of them, which consultants I should reach out to, and someone suggested Crackverbal. So I called and a couple of other consultants as well. So I had a call with a few consultants, and then I had a call with the Crackverbal team. And I had a really positive experience because with the GMAT score of 680 and targeting the schools that I was, it was quite a challenge. And but the Crackverbal team assured me, that we'll proceed with your application. We'll give you the best score. Meanwhile, if you want to take an attempt on GMAT again, it's your decision. You don't have to tell it to anyone you're taking it again. Keep it at your own pace. But we'll support you throughout your application, whichever schools you're targeting. So I think I had initial, the initial experience was very positive with the team. And that's why I think I decided to go ahead with the consultant who had that confidence in me that even with the 680 GMAT score and the targeting the schools I am, they will help me through my application. So I just needed that faith and belief from the team.
Right. So, Vrinda, one thing, you were very clear from the beginning that you wanted to apply to the top ones only. Was there any backup plan for you that what if these top ones don't work out? Did you keep a backup plan, or more from your perspective, do you think people should have a backup plan? What is your thought of that?
So for me, I honestly did not keep a backup plan. I was very clear where I wanted to go. And I thought I'll give my 100% in the applications, 2-3 applications that I'm applying. And it's all individual dependent. For me, I just thought, okay, fine, let's have a plan B. This is school. Let's say I do not get into my target school. Should I have a backup plan? Even if I do get into my backup plan schools, will I really want to go there? I just questioned myself. And the answer was a very clear no. So I thought I should not put that effort into those applications. But of course, it's very individualistic. So if someone wants to have a backup plan, they can. But for me, I was very clear that these are the schools that I'm targeting. I'll give my 100%. If I get through, all well and good. Otherwise, I'll have some learnings. I'll maybe give another attempt at GMAT because now I'll have to apply next year in round 1 and work on my application much more. So for me, I did not have any plan B.
So what were the schools you targeted, and what was the logic behind choosing those schools?
So although I started quite late, I applied in round 2 and I had my GMAT in November 21. So I was applying in early Jan of 2022 and did my GMAT. So I had like roughly 1 month for just writing my applications and everything. But before that, I had done my research. For the last 2 years, I have been attending a lot of, these MBA events and conferences. So I was fairly sure I had done my research on various schools, various geographies. I knew where I wanted to work post MBA. So for me, it was very clear I wanted to work in finance. And London was my top choice to go to. So UK was my target geography. And I only applied to UK schools, the 3 schools in UK. And of that, of course, London Business School is located in London. So I thought it will have the best advantage. And so I only applied to 3 schools in UK, London Business School, Cambridge, and Oxford. The Oxford Sayre Business School and Cambridge Business School. So that I was pretty clear where I want to apply and where I want to build my career post MBA. So I did not apply to any of the US schools, although they are very good schools. For both personal and professional reasons. Professional, as I said, I wanted to work in finance, and I think London can offer amazing opportunities. And personal reasons, because I think US is quite far, and I wanted to be closer to home. And that was the reason of selecting UK primarily.
Right. Tell me a little bit about the process. How easy or difficult was it for you? So since you mentioned you're already a born storyteller, right? Your job involves storytelling, and application process is all about storytelling. So how easy or difficult was it for you because till now you were talking about other people's stories. Now you have to talk about your own story. So how easy or difficult was it for you?
It was definitely challenging because it doesn't come naturally to anyone. And for me also, it was quite a challenge. The only good thing was that I knew that where I wanted to work post MBA. So I was quite clear about that. And I knew my journey till date, the decisions that I have made, why I made those decisions, which really helped me in putting together my application. And I think the mentor that was allotted to me by Crackverbal, Harish, he was excellent. I mean, the support that I got from him, he really, helped me connect the dots of my story and bring out ideas that I had not thought about putting in my application. So I think, yes, my professional experience did help me because I write a lot. and I have to create those stories. So it did help me in crafting my essays and the application in 1 month time period for 3 schools. But the support that I got from my mentor was really immense, and it really helped me elevate my stories and my essays.
Right, right. So after you submitted, how long did it take for you to get interview calls? And did you get interview calls from all the 3 schools? How did that work?
Yeah. So I applied to 3 schools. I got a positive call or a interview call from London Business School, which was quite surprising. So everyone talks about, with a 680 GMAT score, it's actually impossible. I had crossed my fingers and I was hoping to get that call from London Business School, and I finally came through. So I think what worked for me was that I was quite authentic in my story. I talked about what experiences I had till date, and is bringing out how I can add to the class, how my experiences can add to the class. I think that helped me getting that interview call.
Right. So, mostly London Business School is always alumni interviews, right? That is what I've heard. And I remember there are people who've spoken about talking to alums like Kumar Mangalam Birla and all that. So who was your interviewer, and tell us about your interview experience?
Yeah. So my interview experience was quite positive. I was interviewed by an alumni who had just graduated in 21. Okay. And for the interview, I flew down to Kolkata and went to his office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So I thought it would be great. I had never been to Kolkata before, and I got this opportunity. I thought it's better to do it in person. I had the option of doing it virtually as well. Okay. But I decided to go to Kolkata and meet him and speak to him. It's always better to meet someone in person. Okay. Yeah. And I had that experience. I mean, I used to be in IR. I knew how the interviews went or the discussions went when you were doing it in person and or virtually. True. So I thought if I have to give my 100%, I need to be there and I meet him in person.
Excellent.
And the interview experience was quite nice. It was very conversational. So it wasn't a stress interview at all. The interviewer usually has a set of questions that the admission committee wants to ask the candidate. So there are certain set of questions that he asked me. They were more personality driven, more related to my work, what I have done, why I want to do an MBA, why this is cool. Something more situational questions. How did I deal with XYZ situation? And post that in LBS interviews, we also have a case study round, which is like a short case, a situation given to you, and then you have to present. So you'll get like 5 minutes for preparing and then 5 to 10 minutes for presentation. So I had that case interview at the end of, I think, 45 minutes. And then the entire interview lasted for 1.5 hours. The first hour went in just the normal interview. And then the next half an hour, I was just asking him about his experience at LBS. So we were having that conversation. So overall, it was a very positive experience.
Right, right. So was this person also from a finance background, or was it more like a random connect?
Yes. So in LBS, they try to match you with someone from a similar background so that they understand your story better. So the person had actually experience in finance.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. So how long did it take for them to give their decision out after the interview?
As far as I can remember, I applied in Jan, then I had my interview in March. So I think 2 months till the interview, and then 1 month in April, early April, I had the final results come in.
Wow.
So it was.
What was your feeling after you saw the final result? What went in your mind?
I mean, it was very anxiety filled 2 to 3 days, because people had started getting calls and 2 to 3 days prior to the date which was listed on the website, and everyone else was just wondering, will I get a call? Every time the phone rang, you wish it had a +44 number, someone calling from London. So very anxiety filled days. And I remember the moment the result came, it was at night, and so I was just on GMAT Club, everyone just talking about, the results are coming in, someone is receiving messages, someone is receiving mails. So I picked up my phone, saw my mail, and the first thing I read was your class. It's not congratulations, nothing. I just opened the mail. I said, your class. So that was the moment I realized I got in. And
Wow.
it was really, I clearly remember that moment. Happiness was beyond what I can explain.
Thank you so much, Vrinda, for your time. I really appreciate you giving me time on a Friday afternoon. I know it's tough to take up that time, and I'm jealous that you're taking a nice vacation. So have fun, enjoy your break. Extremely important after so much of years of hard work. And so all the best and congratulations once again. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Shikla. Thanks for doing this. And just, I wanted to add a note of thanks to the entire Crackverbal team as well for their support.
Thank you so much. And that means a lot. It's just worth it when I hear things like this from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.